I have to turn the slide up? Yeah.
Down and calm down.
Just angle it down.
That's plenty. Yeah.
Okay. Hey guys, all right.
Let's talk about something that ain't dangerous. How about this? So things may be a little strange for us, but listen to this.
Yeah, we could start a new direction, affecting the future ahead, spreading smiles for miles, a new kind of trend.
Want a new style? How about this? Let's talk about something that's courageous.
How about this?
Let's talk about something that's outrageous.
Put this at the top of your list.
Yeah, we can start a new
New direction, affecting the future ahead,
Spreading smiles for miles, a new kind of trend.
want a new style? Hey.
How about this?
Come on, hit me up with the pickup, y'all.
You're stuck and gonna sit at home.
Live it up, live it up, live it up for me.
You're not alone.
We can lift this world from quarantine.
Pick it up, just pick it up. Take this shot with me. Spread a smile, not something else. 'Cause this world is really needing your help. Spread a smile and nothing more, and we'll show this world it can be restored. You wanna smile? How about this?
Oh, yeah.
If you're stuck and gonna sit at home, live it up, live it up, live it up with me. We can live this world while quarantined. Pick it up, just pick it up.
Take this shot
With me, yeah. Not something else. 'Cause this world is really needing your help. Spread a smile and nothing more. Show this world it can be restored. Spread a smile. Stay well. Stay strong. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. Spread a smile and nothing more. And we'll show this world it can be restored. You wanna smile? How about this?
Good morning and welcome to your Sunday service. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and just know that no matter what you do, the best thing to spread is a smile. Now, this Sunday, you'll hear some of the practices and beliefs of the church, and we will go over what is personal integrity and how is it used. After that, we'll get into the topic of today, which leads me into this question for you. Have you ever felt like there was a target on your back? Or that the world seemed to be out to get you? The why of that is what we're going to be looking at today. And with any problem presented, there is a solution for it. Before we view the next video, that will be played, I would like to go over a word. That word is inalienable. Something that is inalienable cannot be taken away from you or given away by you. It is yours and will always be yours. So let us have a look at the video of the Creed of the Church of Scientology.
We of the church believe
that all men of whatever race, color, or creed
were created with equal rights.
That all men have inalienable rights
to their own religious practices and their performance.
That all men have inalienable rights
to their own lives. That all men have inalienable rights
to their sanity.
That all men have inalienable rights
to their own defense.
That all men have inalienable rights
to conceive, choose, assist, or support
their own organizations, churches, and governments.
That all men have inalienable rights
to think freely, to talk freely,
to write freely their own opinions,
and to counter or utter
or write upon the opinions of others.
That all men have inalienable rights to the creation of their own kind.
That the souls of men have the rights of men.
That the study of the mind
and the healing of mentally caused ills
should not be alienated from religion
or condoned in non-religious fields.
And that no agency less than God
has the power to suspend or set aside these rights, overtly or covertly.
And we of the church believe
that man is basically good.
That he is seeking to survive.
That his survival depends upon himself and upon his fellows.
And his attainment of brotherhood with the universe.
And we of the church believe
that the laws of God forbid man
to destroy his own kind,
to destroy the sanity of another,
to destroy or enslave another's soul,
to destroy or reduce the survival of one's companions or one's group.
And we of the church believe
that the spirit can be saved,
and that the spirit alone may save or heal the body.
Now that you have had a look at the beliefs of the church and also the inalienable rights that you have, let's have a look at personal integrity and see what it is and how you can use that this week and for the rest of your life. Personal Integrity by L. Ron Hubbard. What is true for you is what you have observed yourself. And when you lose that, you have lost everything. What is personal integrity? Personal integrity is knowing what you know. What you know is what you know. And to have the courage to know and say what you have observed. And that is integrity. And there is no other integrity. Of course, we can talk about honor, truth, all these things, these esoteric terms. But I think they'd all be covered very well if what we really observed was what we observed. That we took care to observe what we were observing. That we always observed to observe. And not necessarily maintaining a skeptical attitude, a critical attitude, or an open mind. But certainly maintaining sufficient personal integrity and sufficient personal belief and confidence in self and courage that we can observe what we observe and say what we have observed. Nothing in Dianetics and Scientology is true for you unless you have observed it, and it is true according to your observation. That is it. Now, with the topic for today, I would like to go over a definition. The definition is victimized. Victimized means to single out for cruel, unjust punishment. I'll give that again. Victimized means to single someone out for cruel or unjust treatment. This comes from a late 15th century word, victim, denoting a creature killed as a religious sacrifice, from the Latin word victima. Now, how does victimized or feeling like a victim or being a victim, how does that fit in with having a target on your back? Well, I think that answers itself. But now, let's look at how not to feel victimized. Why is it that some people have a feeling like there's a pressure on them? Have you ever had that feeling? Have you ever felt driven? Did you ever feel like there is some corner of the perimeter around you into which you did not quite dare look? Did you ever feel that life was dogging you? Now, this is a more outrageous question. Have you ever felt that you were victimized? The mechanism of how not to feel victimized is what we're going to take up right now. The motivator overt act sequence. The definition of a motivator is that which has happened to the person. The definition of an overt act is that which a person has done to somebody else. So there you have the motivator overt act sequence. The reason we call it a motivator overt act sequence is because normally an individual feels that something happened to them and then they had to do something to somebody else because of it. And they express this in, I know I was awfully cruel, but I was totally justified. I know I had to shoot him, fire him, arrest him, scold him, bawl him out. But then he merited it. I didn't like chloroforming him. He'd been a good dog, but after he chewed up that rug, you get the idea? Well, the chewed up rug is the justification of having chloroformed the dog. The overt act is chloroforming the dog, and the dog chewing up your rug is the motivator. Now, there's another two sides to this situation. What about the situation where you did something to somebody without a motivator? What happens in this particular case is the individual does something and then he has to explain it. He goes out here and he shoots somebody or poisons somebody or divorces somebody. Something like this. And then he has to explain it. Well, we don't suppose anybody here has ever done anything like that. But what have you done is much harder to answer than what has been done to you. Always. What have you done is much harder to answer than what has been done to you. Why is that? The individual explains to himself so hard why he has done everything that he eventually puts pressure on himself, you might say. He gets all sorts of odd mental reactions. He says consistently and continually, I have done that because all this was done to me. And so he goes around wearing a lopsided head or a twisted ear or a bloody nose or something of the sort, saying, this is why I did it. And people are usually walking explanations of why they did it. Freud, in a Victorian age, conceived man to have this horrible monster parked someplace. Maybe it was just under the left ear. And this horrible monster was all the time plotting, and he had a censor that restrained his fellow. Boy, he had the most populated head of any man I ever heard of. But the truth of the matter is that man is not a ravening beast. Man is not evil. But doing to others what others then consider evil, that's the exact course of it. The individual conceives of himself as having done evil. And if he weren't good, and if he weren't basically something that was kind and decent, he would never protest against an evil or wrong act, would he? Would he make himself sick just because he'd done something evil if he weren't basically good? This is one of the greatest proofs there is for the basic nature of man. Now, the overt act motivator sequence explains a great deal about marriage. A husband does something to the wife she doesn't even know about. The next thing you know, he's mad at the wife. But he's the one that did something to the wife. The days go on and he does more and more to the wife and he gets madder and madder at the wife. And the months and years go on and he gets more and more and more and more impatient and upset with the wife. She doesn't even know what's going on. Similarly, she goes out to a party and she goes out in the garden and there's a young man out in the garden and he gives her a quick kiss. This is something she can't tell her husband. And then she's done an overt act against her husband. Well, a few more parties and a few more kisses and what happens, happens. And the next thing you know, she's just furious with her husband. She could just kill him. Why? He doesn't give her any motivators is one of the best explanations. But the fact of the matter is, she just simply gets a tearing fury against him. You'll find almost any marriage would clean up totally and completely. utterly if you just cleaned up the motivators and overt acts. And you'll think the marital partner couldn't take it. The funny part is, the marital partner probably already knows all about it, or something about it already. Now, where an individual is faced with a disintegrating personal relationship, it is true that he may not have the answer to it. It may lie totally with the other side. He may have no idea on it at all. If the relationship is disintegrating and he honestly knows he hasn't done anything to disintegrate it, then he must know one thing, that somebody is pulling an overt act against him consistently and continually that deteriorates the relationship. If he wants to repair the relationship, all he's got to do is get the person to tell him what they can't tell him. Confess a few of the overt acts, clean them up. Or, if he himself finds the relationship is disintegrating, actually all he has to do along the line is simply clean up the communication lines. And when I say communication lines, I mean the direct line of communication between one point to another point. So if it's between the husband and the wife, it's their line of communication, how they communicate, how often they communicate, and the quality of that communication. So I'll give that again. Actually, all he has to do anywhere along the line is simply clean up the communication lines. Tell the person why he's so mad at the person. You say, that would blow it all up. But the very funny thing is that it certainly never has. With this understanding comes a whole technology of keeping marriages together, keeping families together. Why do kids get so mad at their parents in their teens? They pull enough overt acts against them by the time that they get into their teens, they're furious with them. The parents haven't done anything much to them. Anytime you permit this situation to become overbalanced on either direction, overt act motivator sequence on either party, once you break the communication lines of any social relationship between these two, you then have a deteriorated personal relationship. And this is the only reason why you have a deteriorated personal relationship with anyone, anywhere. Either you are pulling overt acts against them and they don't know about it, or they are pulling them against you and you don't know about it. All you have to do is straighten it up, clean it up, and you've got it made. It's a wonderful feeling to be right with the world. You can learn how to straighten out any relationship simply by studying the Scientology handbook, by learning how to resolve conflicts, how to clean up overts, how to save a failing marriage, and more. You can accomplish miracles by the standards of today's troubled world. Now, I hope that you will apply this reference, this data that you've just heard in your life, and also using personal integrity so that you can observe what's happening. You can observe and speak on the deterioration of a relationship that you have in your life. I hope that you'll use this. And for anybody who's gained something from this, from listening, and thought of ways that they could use this, please drop a comment. Let me know. I'd really like to hear from you. Now, as for announcements, on Tuesday, Vincent will be delivering a webinar entitled Toxic Relationships. Now, it's very interesting because we just got through talking about marriages. So, if you want to see the things that are involved and why relationships can become so toxic and how you can actually do something to handle that situation, I suggest you on Tuesday at 8 o'clock visit that webinar. There should be a link that'll be coming up just now. And then also, next Sunday is a very interesting Sunday because it's Easter Sunday. So, I'm going to be giving you guys information on what Easter is, what's the traditions that follow on Easter, and the source or the actual origin of Easter. And it's going to be a pretty amazing Sunday. And then also, we'll be giving you an invitation to freedom, which would be the topic of next week. And with that, we'll be ending with the reading of the Scientology prayer for total freedom. May the author of the universe enable all men to reach an understanding of their spiritual nature. May awareness and understanding of life expand so that all may come to know the author of the universe. And may others also reach this understanding which brings total freedom. At this time, we think of those whose liberty is threatened, of those who have suffered imprisonment for their beliefs, of those who are enslaved or martyred, and for all those who are brutalized, trapped, or attacked. We pray that human rights will be preserved so that all people may believe and worship freely, so that freedom will once again be seen in our land. Freedom from war and poverty and want. Freedom to be, freedom to do, and freedom to have. Freedom to use and understand man's potential, a potential that is God-given and God-like. And freedom to achieve that understanding and awareness that is total freedom. May God let it be so. Thank you for coming to Sunday service. Feel free to leave comments, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Have a great week.
Right on in. Woo! Good night for real this time.